Hi everyone, my name is Brian DeSono and I'm a PhD candidate at Syracuse University. This video is a pre-recording of what I intend to present at CCW 2018. The title for this talk is Challenges in Transitioning from Civil to Military Culture, Hyper-Selective Disclosure through ICTs. And this is a paper that was created in collaboration with our colleagues at the Indiana University Bloomington. So for this talk, I'm going to be going over a critical element for transition, which is the ability to disclose or make known one's struggles. Here, I'll be going over the research setting, giving you some context to what ROTC is, and then I'll be going over the methods of our interview study, as well as sharing some high-level findings, particularly our support-seeking strategies that we've learned from our ROTC informants. I'll then be going over the discussion of our paper, as well as design implications and future work. So moving to college or a new home, changing occupations, losing a loved one, or breaking up with a partner, these are all examples of life disruptions. And life disruptions often lead to transitions, which are a process through which people move through one life phase, condition, or status to another. And one of the most common transitions is the shift from high school to college. In this transition, an alarming number of students experience emergent challenges that serve to disrupt their ability to be successful as a student. Some of these challenges may include depression, as well as trying to integrate with new friend groups. In this paper, our team explores this transition disclosure strategies of a special category of students who experience their college experience in a more complex way. And here we're looking at ROTC, or Reserve Officers Training Corps students. ROTC students are unique in that not only are they transitioning and learning what it takes to be a successful college student, they're also learning about and becoming a part of military culture. When students become members of the ROTC program, they begin military training, which can be physically and mentally taxing. And many students report the change in lifestyle as a big transition in their lives. This transition creates a fragmented identity for ROTC students, leading to complexity in the transition process as norms between civil and military cultures are strikingly different. Military culture, unlike civil society, is based on collectivist norms which stresses routine behaviors, deference to authority, and performance. The Army ROTC program at Indiana University Bloomington describes itself as a leadership development program that offers challenging, hands-on training to build confidence and character while developing leadership skills for future success. Students at this institution are allowed to participate in the ROTC program, obligation-free for the first 2 years of their college experience, where they are introduced to basic courses in military skills and the fundamentals of leadership. In the latter half of the program, ROTC students are considered cadets and acquire the rank of a second lieutenant upon their graduation. ROTC cadets are obligated to serve in the Army for a minimum of 4 years, through either active or reserve duty. So in this study, we're largely interested in 3 research questions. Mainly, what were the types of emergent challenges that ROTC students dealt with in their transitions, as well as how they cope with these challenges and what privacy concerns they face when seeking support. We're also interested in looking at the ways in which privacy is afforded by the ICTs, or information communication technologies, and how that affects their ability to seek help. And we're also looking at the ways in which ROTC students are transitioning as they move into military culture. So ROTC students undergo multiple transitions simultaneously. Not only are they transitioning from secondary to post-secondary education, but they're also being assimilated to military culture, which orients them to collectivist routines in contrast to the individualistic norms in civilian society. And in this study, we build upon existing work that we see, for example, Goffman's work on impression management, as well as Hameson's work on transitions. And our research team also builds upon our previous work at the working with military communities. For example, Saman looked at the transition resilience within military culture, and we're also looking to build upon existing literature on transition disclosure within ICTs. So Here, this is a photo of the leadership assessment report that all ROTC students are taking as they evaluate not only themselves, but also their peers. We're interested in understanding the structures that are characterized by the ROTC program, such as this peer assessment, and how these structures affect their ability to disclose and seek support that affects their standing in the eyes of their peers. The hyper-competitive environment in the ROTC program perpetuates and rewards a culture of respect. And those who stay in line with traditional military roles and perform well alongside others get rewarded with promotions and scholarships. However, as I'll discuss next, these types of environments also discourage ROTC students from sharing any vulnerability they have with others openly, as it may negatively affect how their peers rank them at the end of each semester. Unlike non-ROTC college students, these professional barriers to disclose are an added complexity for ROTC students, who usually do not disclose personal weaknesses for stigma or privacy concerns. We present data that's based on a qualitative interview study with ROTC students who experience personal crises while transitioning from high school to college. This is part of a larger research project where we're trying to uncover the ways in which people use technology to navigate various kinds of disruption. Our total data set comprised of 10 informants who identified as males and 4 informants who identified as females. All of our informants were at least 18 years old, predominantly white, ranged from 19 to 22 years of age, and our informants who were all undergraduate students with diverse majors, including computer science, recreational therapy, human biology, and political science. All of our informants reported using at least one technology or ICT to cope with personal crises. The interview protocol was semi-structured and consisted of 4 sections: collecting demographic questions, asking informants to describe their life history and motivations for joining ROTC, asking informants to share 2 stories about personal crises that they've experienced in the past, and uncovering their uses of technology to cope with personal crises. We've organized our interviews in this semi-structured format. We've transcribed our interviews and created a code book via an inductive coding approach. And then we use the Do software for coding themes. Based on recurring themes we observed emerging from our data, we uncovered common factors associated with how they describe a personal challenge, the issues they face in disclosing the personal challenges with others, and the coping mechanisms they develop with ICTs to help them transition into a state of normalcy following a period of challenge, following a personal challenge to their everyday routine. Our findings are surrounded around the disclosure strategies that we'll talk about next. So while some informants use support systems that help them overcome challenges in their lives, others kept personal challenges to themselves without seeking support from others. Keeping problems private to oneself allows students to maintain faith in the ROTC. So here, this is a quote from our second informant that talks about the types of self-management strategies that could be developed towards self-reliance. This informant said, "You have to have a certain mental toughness. What we do is difficult, but at the same time, you don't want to come across as being someone who's weak. So it's a fine line, this line with mental toughness and mental illness." Some informants who did not like to post on social media preferred to observe how others express their problems and solutions online. Lurking is a passive form of information gathering that allows people to read the postings of others on social media or chat rooms without making any contribution. For example, P7, a 20-year-old male cadet, gleaned through many threads on Reddit to learn how to improve his well-being and prepare himself to start dating other people. Here we see informants turning to social media to share their problems, or at least finding this shift from their real identity to anonymity. This participant said, I tried to find out how to improve yourself on forums like Reddit. I looked up what people preferred in partners because I wanted to start dating. No, I didn't have an account. Someone had already written about this issue, so I just read it. Informants also relied on ROTC, but for certain aspects. So they wanted to treat this, for example, here, this participant went to the support staff of ROTC because they knew that they were not going to be ranked or peer assessed by the support staff. However, they did not share certain problems with ROTC friends. In this case, again, P2 suffered multiple physical injuries and felt that the available athletic trainers understood the situation and provided the necessary support. So here we're seeing informants turn to the ROTC for formal support infrastructures. In this quote, regarding injuries, we have an athletic training staff, so they're always there to help us out. They can understand the level that we do. They understand our culture a lot, and they're not going to coddle us either. P3, a female cadet, was sexually harassed during summer training by someone she worked with and trusted. Due to the nature of her case, she preferred to keep her incident a secret and deliberately chose not to talk about the sexual harassment incident with other cadets. She expressed numerous concerns because of the stereotypes about sexual assault victims in the military. She was also concerned that others would not believe her and may think she would report false accusations. So here we see our informants also turn to their family as their support system because they know that they won't have or be on the receiving end of judgment. This participant said, "When the sexual harassment happened, I felt stress on top of anxiety, and I relied on my parents a lot through that. It is taken very seriously, and I don't think it's anyone's business to know about it. My worst fear was that people are going to think I was lying." Next, we discuss how ROTC students experience a unique transition and how this manifests in their disclosure practices. I will then describe design implications for the design of ICTs to aid in transitions and future work. Our study reveals how military cultural norms can create barriers for disclosure, where disclosure is critical in enabling people to manage disruption. Importantly, we observed a strong connection between the former personal challenges they were experiencing and support-seeking behavior. We also noticed how internal reward structures and ranking systems perpetuate hyper-competitive norms as ROTC students vie for coveted military positions. Here we forward this idea of hyper-selective disclosure, whereby people are highly cognizant of the audiences with which they enact support in relation to the challenges they are facing in their transition. Here we identify implications for design that can contribute to aiding ROTC students in their transition. We found that ROTC students experience a disconnect between civil and military social structures as they were situated in a space between both worlds. Considering ROTC students are entering an unfamiliar social structure, new ICTs can help them translate between the cultural norms of civil and military social structures. As people turn to the internet to locate resources for transitioning into the military, immersive ICTs can also provide an alternative form of training. For example, ICTs that take the form of massively multiplayer online role-playing games can ease newcomers into military culture by introducing them to military-specific contexts and providing virtual simulations of combat scenarios. Such games can help existing military members transition back into civil society. We also found that ROTC students relied on anonymous online spaces for support. Anonymous groups or blogs can be designed just for ROTC students, where they can easily communicate with other ROTC students without revealing their true identities. Prior work has shown that knowing about other veteran struggles, or by simply observing them, provides motivation to fight one's own struggles. Thus, anonymous support groups consisting of ROTC or even veteran members can help aid others in their transition to civil society. However, research has also found that anonymous online spaces may include interactions that don't allow for support. That is, with anonymity, there's also this emergence of negative or antisocial behavior. This leads to the question of how we can design for supportive anonymity or online spaces that are anonymous but also civil. Physical activity is important for ROTC students, as exercise routines are deeply embedded in their basic combat training. Previous research demonstrated the potential of ICTs, such as mobile applications, to display earlier warning signals to military users as a means of preventative intervention for high-risk behaviors. ICTs built for ROTC students can also monitor performance benchmarks over time, coordinate peer groups to participate in recreational activities, and recommend supplemental workout activities to help users achieve personal and physical fitness goals. Designers should take into account both the environmental factors ROTC students encounter in their fitness regimen, as well as the potential to identify and intervene during stressful situations when designing ICTs that encourage opportunities for users to reflect on their health and wellness. New ICTs for ROTC students should be designed to support their various types of disclosures for different audiences. For example, ROTC students seeking dating advice among their peers may not necessarily want their online posts to be shared among supervisors or archived for public viewing. Likewise, ROTC students sharing information about perceived personal weaknesses with friends and family may want to keep this information inaccessible to other ROTC members. Developing automated techniques that detect sensitive content within drafted social media posts in relation to the selected audiences will prevent ROTC students from disclosing inappropriate information with the wrong audience. So, through a qualitative interview study of active ROTC students, examining how they use information communication technologies to disclose their struggles in a hyper-competitive environment, we find that they engage in this process of highly selective disclosure, where they have to choose between different groups with which to disclose based on the different types of issues that they face. So in terms of ongoing research, this study was limited in that it did not represent the experience of other groups, such as African Americans and those who identify as LGBT, since our sample was predominantly white. Future work will look into the temporal analysis of various stages of transition amongst collectivist communities and the underlying identity work that shapes them. So thank you for your time and for listening to this presentation. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or my collaborators here on social media.